start this quick review. So the very first chapter that we did in grade 10 math was linear systems. So using 3 methods. What are the 3 methods to solve a linear system? Yep.
Graphing, substitution, and elimination.
Right. Graphing, substitution, and elimination. Do you need to know all 3 for the exam?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, so make sure you know all 3. A parking lot contains 102 vehicles, cars, and bus. Each car was charged $3 and each bus was $10. The total revenue they collected was $418. How many buses were on the lot? Solve by substitution and elimination for the sake of the review. Okay, so with these, if I just give you 2 equations, you guys know what to do. Hardest part is to come up with the 2 equations. So let's have some let statement first. What are my 2 variables here? Armin?
B and C. Let B be the number of buses and C be the number of cars.
Buses, perfect. And C to be number of cars. Okay, so let's come up with our 2 equations. My first one? Who can give me one of them? Yep.
3C plus 10 y.
Okay, so 3C plus 10B, $10 per bus, $3 per car, and in total they collected $418. So this first equation deals with the money. All right. Second equation deals with the number. All right. How am I going to use that 102? Okay, in total, there is 102 vehicles. Yep. Yeah, C plus B equals 102. So this is the number of. So the first equation is dealing with money. Second equation deals with the number of coins, number of cars, number of stuff. Okay. So since we're doing substitution and elimination, let's do substitution first. So method of substitution. Substitution. So equation 2, I'm going to rearrange it to C equals 102 minus B. All right, so now I can substitute it into equation 1. Okay, so 3 bracket. Make sure you put in brackets whenever you substitute, because otherwise you're going to miss timesing it by 3. And B equals 418. So 306 minus 3B plus 10B is 418. So 306 plus 7B. All right, subtract. So 418 subtract 306 and then divide it by 7. So I'll write that. 112. So when you divide it, you get 16. Okay, 16 what? Yep. Buses. That's right. Do I need to solve for C? No, because the question only asks for number of bus. So I'm done. Alright. Method of elimination. So second method, doing method of elimination. So looking at these 2 equations right here, which variable should I get rid of? Which variable should I eliminate? Yeah. Why? Well, remember, I'm trying to solve for B. So if I'm trying to solve for B, I don't want to eliminate it because then it will be gone. So that's why I would want to eliminate the C. So my first equation is just 3C plus 10B equals 418. And my second equation, I'm going to multiply everything by 3. So then I get 3c plus 3b equals 306. Okay, how do I eliminate the c? Should I add or subtract? Subtract. 3c minus 3c. That's gone. That's eliminated. And then 10b minus 3b. That's 7b. 418 minus 306. I get 112. So when I divide it, b equals 16 buses. Same answer. Okay. Any question on the first one? Okay, second question, similar, so I'll leave that for you guys to do. Okay. Oh, sorry. Did you guys need another minute? Here. Okay, so second question is very similar. Remember, number of first equation is money, second equation is number of. Okay, so you set up the same way.
Can we do solve by
This one? All of these you can solve by graphing. So if I were to do these by graphing, I would have to rearrange it into y equals mx plus b form, and then graph it on graph paper. But out of the 3 methods, graphing is the least accurate and the most time consuming.
can we cover that because other people do
Oh, if you want to cover, okay. So for the sake of the review, I'll go over it, but I don't recommend it on the final exam if you don't have to use right graphing. It won't be. It would be nicer equations if you were to do it. It would be nicer equations because it's just that this is gonna. I could show you guys on Decimal, but I won't. I don't want to waste time to draw the graph. So if I were to do the graphing method, who's talking outside? All right, 1 second. Let me scroll it up. Okay, so flip to the next page. You guys can do number 2 afterwards. Unit 2 and 3, we did geometry. So we have these equations. Do you need to memorize these equations? Yes. Okay, so the distance formula, the circle formula, the midpoint formula, and the slope formula. Don't forget the slope as well. M equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Okay. These should be subscripts. I don't know why it came out to be big numbers. So these should have been subscripts. Let me just fix that. In case it confused you guys. Okay, so those should be subscripts right here. 1, 2, 1, 2. Okay, so make sure you memorize these formulas. And then we also did analytical geometry where we went over different shapes and the properties of it. So a square, has 4 sides. They have perpendicular corners. So in terms of analytical geometry, how do you prove that they are perpendicular? Slopes are negative reciprocal. So negative reciprocal slopes. Okay. A rhombus also has 4 sides, but they don't have perpendicular corners. Okay. How do you check that all 4 sides are equal? Yep. Distance formula. Okay. Distance for all 4 sides the same. A rectangle, also 4 sides, have perpendicular corners, but has 2 pair of parallel sides. So how do I prove that they have 2 pair of parallel sides? Yep,
The corners, what do you call it, the diagonals?
Not quite. But how do I show that it has two pairs of parallel sides? Slopes, yeah. Two pairs of same slope. Or you can also, no. If you do two pairs of equal distance, it doesn't prove that it's a rectangle. It could be a rhombus too. No, yes. If it's two pairs of equal distance, yeah, it could be a rhombus, not just a rectangle. So to prove that it's a rectangle, you also need the perpendicular corners. So you also need, other than the parallel slopes, you need the perpendicular slopes as well. Right? Parallelogram. Okay, so this one, yeah, so that's what I was thinking. So difference between rectangle and parallelogram is the 90 degree. So you also have to compare the slopes, negative reciprocal slopes. Okay. For these, you need to use the slope and a point to make y equals mx plus b. So remember these: median, altitude, perpendicular bisector. So let's draw a quick diagram for these. Median. Okay, triangle ABC. Okay, if I say, you want to sit behind Paul? Behind Max? You can pull that up here if you want. You can pull the desk up. Okay, if I say a median from point A, what does that mean? Yeah.
So basically, midpoint of BC.
Good.
There was a program for this.
Sorry, say that.
There was a program for
Yes. But this is just the median. It would be from vertex A to the midpoint on the other side. So that's your median. So that's median right there. Okay, altitude. Okay, same thing. So let's say triangle ABC. Altitude from A. How do I draw the altitude from A? Yep. Good. Perpendicular line to BC. Does not have to be midpoint. All right, so that's altitude. And then perpendicular bisector. Yeah, and then perpendicular bisector. So if I say perpendicular bisector of BC, how do I draw the perpendicular bisector of BC? Yeah. Perfect. Yes. So it's the midpoint of BC and at 90 degree. Okay. So remember the difference between the three: median, altitude, and perpendicular bisector. Okay. Only median and perpendicular bisector is through the midpoint. Otherwise, it doesn't have to. Okay. And then that's another practice problem that you guys could do. Oh yeah, also, good point. Centroid. Okay. What's the shortcut to finding the centroid? Yep. There's a formula. Yeah.
x1 plus x2 plus x3 divided through, then same for y.
Perfect. And then y1 plus y2 plus y3 divided by 3. Okay, so centroid is 3 median. What's the word for 3 altitude? Yeah. Good. Orthocenter is where 3 altitude meets. Orthocenter. And then what's the word for 3 perpendicular bisectors? Circumcenter. Good. Circumcenter. Perpendicular bisector and right bisector is the same thing. Okay. So there's no shortcut formula for these two. If you really have to solve for those, you'll have to come up with 3 equations of the altitude and then do substitution, elimination to solve. No coordinates. The vertices. Yeah. Okay. Is everything coming back to you guys now? Like, yeah, we did these 3 months ago. Yeah. Okay. I'll go over. Okay, and then just to go over these, and then I'll give you guys class time to work on the package. Okay. So and then in unit 4, 5, and 6, we did algebra, expanding and factoring. Expanding means FOIL, getting rid of the brackets. So expand means no more brackets. No more brackets. All right. And one of the method that we do is FOIL, or if it's a binomial times a monomial, what is that property called? Distributive property. Good job. Distributive property. Alright. So I'm trying to tell you guys all the terms in case I test you guys on some terms. Alright, and then in terms of factoring, there were different types of factoring that we did. We did common factoring. And remember to always try this first. Okay, whenever you get a question that asks for factoring, always check for common factors first. After you do that, then you can decide which of the 3 to do. So the hint is if there's 4 terms, you do by grouping. All right, that's like the your hint that whenever you see 4 terms, it's by grouping. There's also, if there's 3 terms, then you can do the triangle and square method. So that's what this is. This is the triangle and square method. 2 numbers that add to the B and times to C. Okay. And if it's a trinomial, but there's a value in the front, then we can do that cross multiply method. So the cross multiply method. Okay. And okay, sometimes when there's 3 terms, it could also be a perfect square factoring. How you can tell is a perfect square is that a square and b squares are perfect square numbers. So like 1, 1, 4, 9, 16, 25, 36. Whenever you see these numbers, you know it's probably a perfect square factor. I don't know what these symbols are. Don't worry about it. Those typo. Okay. If there are two terms in the factoring, it's most likely a difference of square. Alright. Remember the difference between perfect square factoring and difference of square factoring is difference of square. It's a minus in between the squares. That's why it's called difference. And then in the brackets, one's plus, one's minus. That's how you can get rid of that middle term. Okay. And if the question said solve by factoring, it means set it to 0 and then find out what x equals. Yeah. Oh, that's next part. It's on the next page. Okay. So the difference between just factor or solve by factor is the word solve. So make sure you read the question carefully. Because being your teacher for the last 4 months, I know that some of you do not read the question carefully. So make sure you read it carefully so that you don't miss part of the question. Okay. Okay. And then this is what quadratic relations. And like now that we know how to do factoring and expanding, and it ties into quadratic relations. You guys should be really good with these now because you guys have been working on your accommodating. All right, so you would know standard form, factor form, vertex form. On your accommodating, how many of each do you have to have? Two of each in each format. Okay, so make sure out of your 50 lines or 100 lines or 500 lines equations, make sure you have 2 of each. Okay. In standard form, direction of opening, you always look at the A value. If it's positive, it opens up. Negative, it opens down. Simple as that. Standard form is the easiest to tell you what your y-intercept is because it's just the C. Right? If I wanted to solve for the zeros, if I want to find out what the zeros are, I would have to factor it to put it into factor form. And then that will tell me my roots are R and S. Notice the sign is the opposite. So if this is x minus 3, that means your 0 is 3. If this was x plus 8, then your 0 would be negative 8. Okay, so keep in mind the opposite signs. And then if I want to go from standard form to vertex form to find out what my vertex is, I would have to complete the square. Once I complete the square and put it in this form, my vertex is H and K. Okay. So to find the roots, I can do the quadratic formula. So this, don't forget, standard form, factor form, vertex form. The 3 forms, you have to know all 3 forms. Quadratic formula, yes, you have to memorize it. Okay, another formula that make sure you know. Discriminant, so the number of solution, number of zeros, number of roots, all means the same thing. So number of solution, roots, zeros, x-intercepts. Alright, all these means the same thing. So your x value. Alright. B squared minus 4AC, if it's greater than 0, 2 solution. Equal 0, 1 solution. Less than 0, 0 solution. So here's another formula. Okay. The complete the square method. So we did a whole test on completing the square. So hopefully you guys know how to do it by now. If not, here's some steps to remind you. So factor out the a first from the first two terms. Then add and subtract b divided by 2 squared inside the bracket. Third step, multiply that fourth term out. And then lastly, put it into perfect square trinomial. Okay. And then in terms of transformation, now that you complete the square and put it into vertex form, you know that the A is the vertical stretch or compress, or reflection. Reflect over the x-axis if it's negative. Okay. On the exam, make sure you write reflect on the x-axis, not just reflect. Okay. In grade 10, we only did vertical stretch and compress, so then you don't have to stay vertical. But in grade 11, you'll get into vertical and horizontal stretch and compress. Okay. The H is the shift left, shift right. So if it is x minus 3 squared, how does it shift? If it's x minus 3 squared, it shifts left or right?
Right.
Right. Was that a guess or you know it?
No, it was like minus D.
Yeah. Okay. So if it's minus inside the bracket, it means it goes to the right. If it's plus inside the bracket, it goes to the left. So keep that in mind. And then if it's just, this one is easier, the up and down. If it's positive, it's up. Negative, it's down. Okay. Yeah, don't worry about the mapping. Oh, if you were to graph it using the step method, so don't forget there is the step method. How do I do the step method? 1, 3, and 5, and I multiply it to what? What do I multiply the step method with? To know the steps.
What's 1, 3, and 5?
A. Right. So whatever your A value is, multiply it by 1, 3, and 5. That's how you go from the vertex. And then 1 over, and then 1 down. And then 1 over, and then 3 down, and so forth. And then 1 over, 5 down. Yeah. So if A was 2, then you would go, if A was negative 2, then yeah, you would go 1 over, 2 down, 1 over, 3 down, and so forth. If A was 5, then you go 1 over, 5 up, 1 over, 15 up, and so forth.
Yeah.
Okay.
2 down and then
6 down. Yeah. All right. So don't forget the step method. And then lastly, just to go over this last part. I just go to the last page. So like here, I'm just refreshing your memory with everything that we did, and then I'll give you guys class time to try the questions. Okay, and then the last 2 units that we did was trigonometry. All of you guys did really well on these 2 chapters. Similar and congruent triangles. What's another word for congruent? Another word for congruent? Same. Yeah. So congruent just means same. Same triangles. What makes a triangle similar? What makes two triangles similar? Yeah. Angles are the same. Angles are the same. Yeah. Right. And side lengths are, what's that keyword? Proportional. Lengths are proportional. That's the keyword. Okay. In a right angle triangle, we can do Pythagorean theorem. C squared equals A squared plus B squared. And we can do SOHCAHTOA. That is how you spell SOHCAHTOA. Don't spell it any other way. Okay. If I give you all three angles, can I do SOHCAHTOA? Fatigue. If I give you all three angles, can I do SOHCAHTOA?
No,
Why not?
because you need one of the side lengths to do SOHCAHTOA.
Good.
You just cosine line.
No, you still need a side leg.
That's side. Oh.
Yeah. Okay. So you have to be given a side length in order to use SOHCAHTOA. For if it's not a right angle triangle, then we have to use sine law, cosine law. Okay. So sine law. What's the formula for sine law? What's the formula for sine law? Good. Okay. Again, you could have it as A over sine A equals B over sine B as long as you're consistent. Okay. It's the same thing. And then cosine law. What's the formula for cosine law? C squared equals cosine C. Right. Start with C, end with C. Okay. And this is sine law, cosine law is when it's an acute triangle where you cannot use SOHCAHTOA. You won't be as ambiguous case on the exam, so no ambiguous case. Okay. When can I use sine law? If you have a pair. Good. When can I use cosine law? What does your friend say, Pratik?
Once you use cosine law, you can use cosine law when you have two side lengths and the angle, or you have all three side lengths.
Thank you. Yes, Pratik just like put you on the spot there.
It's like how Italian fall. Sorry. Max. Another answer for the Jeopardy.
Teamwork. Okay. But just make sure it's not a teamwork on the final exam. It could be prior to the exam. I encourage you guys to study together. That would be awesome. All right. Yes. Okay. So there you go. A quick summary, a 30-minute summary of everything that we did in the course. So now I'm going to give you guys class time to try these questions. Okay. All this package.